I have a feeling this video is going to be a bit hard to film. Before I actually started digging into what happened and starting like listing out all the stuff that happened at that apartment with this neighbor, I just kind of like brushed it off as like a joke, and now looking back I was like, holy shit, like I was actually hate crimed. Hey, what's up everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be telling you guys the story of this really crazy neighbor that I had back when I was living in San Marcos, Texas. I guess this kind of goes unspoken because you guys probably read the title, but there is a content warning or like a trigger warning for this video. There's a lot of transphobia, there's a lot of homophobia, some slurs and stuff, and just like talk of physical and verbal threats and abuse. So just keep an eye out. If you're not into that kind of stuff, this video is probably not for you. He was just super violent, super loud, super outspoken, very homophobic and transphobic guy, and what happened with him was really scary, and I don't think I ever really grasped like the severity of the situation until it all came to a climax. And even now, going back through everything, it just makes me realize like, holy shit, like I could have gotten into some serious trouble, or I could have been harmed, and it's just very scary to think about. But it's also just kind of a funny story. Not really a funny story, but it's an interesting story, so I wanted to share it with you guys. Basically, I moved into this new apartment complex my sophomore year of college in July of 2019, and right off the bat I started having issues with him. He would play his music super loud, like heavy metal, screamo type stuff, which I don't have an issue with, but he was playing it so loud that you could hear it from my apartment, and he would play it so late into the night, and he would play it at the ass crack of dawn in the morning sometimes when I had school or when I was working from home. I'll attach videos and screenshots of everything that I have from this time period for extra proof for you guys. The way that our apartment complex was set up was there was 4 units in a building, or 8 units in a building. There was 4 on the back side and 4 in the front side, and I was on the front side. And then there was this little like breezeway where there was a set of stairs to get up to the second floor, and down below the stairs it was his doorway and then my doorway, and there was like a kind of a communal like patio space down there, but it was like an unspoken rule that he had his half and I had my half. And on my half I had a bench and a little like door mat slash like rug type thing. He would stand out there with his friends all the time smoking cigarettes, and they would never dispose of their cigarette butts properly. They would always just flick them onto the ground, and occasionally he would flick them and hide them underneath my bench. Like he would stick them under the seat cushions, or he would just leave them sitting under my bench. And a few times I also found them stuffed under my doormat. He would also pick fights with the guy that lived right above him. I don't remember his name, but I do know that he was like an administrator at the university that I went to. He would constantly be berated by the downstairs neighbor, the crazy guy. Of course, since he lived above him, I'm sure the noise was even worse for him, so he would come down and he would knock on his door and say, hey, can you guys turn the music down? I'm trying to sleep, I'm trying to work, you know, like things like that. And the downstairs neighbor would constantly call him the F slur, call him just nasty names. There is a video that I have where he's arguing with the upstairs neighbor, and he literally tells the upstairs neighbor that he is God because the upstairs neighbor had threatened to call the police on him. And so he says, fuck you, I'm God, nothing can hurt me, you're nothing to me. He would just say the most crazy random shit. I'm pretty convinced that he probably did like meth or something along those lines, because some of the things that he would say was just fucking ridiculous. There was no end to the homophobic slurs that he would use. He would use racial slurs. It was non-stop with that guy. He would also blast his music really loud, and then as an added bonus, he would go outside and he would toss pebbles or like pieces of mulch at our upstairs neighbor's windows, just to piss him off even more, I guess. And that was the extent of things. Up to that point, I did my best to try and avoid him. I knew that he was probably a violent guy. I didn't want to get into any physical or verbal confrontations with him, so I did my best to avoid him at all costs. I was just like, you know what, it's minor stuff. I have a broom, I can sweep off the cigarette butts, it's not a big deal. I'm not a very confrontational person, so I thought if I just like laid low, kept my head down, he would leave me alone for the most part. Shit really hit the fan after Pride Month. I went to Target, and Target sometimes sells these really tiny pride flags for Pride Month. They're literally like this big. They're teeny tiny little things. They look like napkins basically. I bought 2. I bought the bisexual pride flag and the transgender pride flag for obvious reasons. And I hung them up in my window because, you know, it's fucking pride. I lived in San Marcos, which is really close to Austin, and that's a pretty liberal area of Texas, so I didn't think I would have any issues. When I got those flags, I also bought some plants, and I put them on my windowsill because that was really the only place where they could get a lot of natural light. And because they needed a lot of natural light, I lifted my blinds up a little bit. Just enough to where the plants could get sun and my cat could sit on the windowsill and like watch people walk by outside because she loves to people watch. Like I said, I had never had any verbal or physical confrontations with this guy up until this point, but once I hung those pride flags in my windows and once I put my plants in the windowsill and started leaving my blinds open during the day, shit really hit the fan. He started coming up to my windows at night and he would look into my windows. I had a TV in my living room, so a lot of times I was out there playing PlayStation with my friends, or I would just be watching Netflix or whatever, eating dinner. And he would start to come up during the day and he would yell, "Shut your fucking window," and he would call me the F slur, he would call me the T slur, he would call me a tranny. He would say, "I don't want to see your fucking tranny ass, I don't want to see your F slur ass." It was just non-stop verbal harassment from this guy. I started shutting my blinds at night so that he couldn't come up and look in and yell at me while I was watching TV or when I was sleeping, and I would leave them open during the day because most of the time during the day I was gone. I was at class or I was at work, so I didn't have to worry about him like harassing me during the day. I thought that that system would be enough to keep him kind of at bay. So that system worked for a little bit. He stopped yelling at me once I started shutting my blinds at night. But one day, I think it all really came to a head when I had left my blinds open at night. I just got home from work late. I didn't really give a fuck enough to close my blinds. I had just literally just made dinner. I was sitting on my couch watching TV, and some of his friends came over, and they quickly got really loud, really rowdy. They were blasting their music. They were pretty clearly inebriated. I don't know if they were drunk or high or both, but they were pretty fucked up. And they came outside to smoke, and they saw that my blinds were up. I should have shut them right then, but I really didn't think anything of it. I thought since maybe he had friends over, he would kind of like withhold that behavior, and maybe he didn't want his friends to know that he was a fucking asshole, but that was not the case. So him and his buddies were smoking outside, and he saw that my blinds were up, and they started yelling at me, him and his friends included. They started yelling at me to put my blinds down. They said, "Nobody wants to see inside your fucking apartment, you fucking tranny." They were just calling me all these nasty names, saying all this bullshit stuff to me. And I just ignored them. I thought that if I, again, just laid low, kept my head down, and was just like as non-confrontational as possible, they would just get tired of me and leave me alone. They just got louder and louder, and finally my neighbor said, "We're gonna go get our buddies and we're gonna leave, but when we come back, if your blinds aren't shut, we're gonna fuck you up." And at that point, I was terrified. I thought they were gonna break into my apartment, they were gonna, you know, bust my door down or something, you know? I was just scared for my safety at that point. And so as soon as they sped off in their car, I immediately got up, I turned off all my lights, I turned off my TV, I called my mom and my dad to tell them what was going on, and they immediately were like, "Why are you calling us? Call the police." So I hung up on them, and I locked all my windows, and I barricaded my front door with a chair from my dining table. And after that was all done, I called the police and I told them what was going on. And I was like, "I'm really scared, I don't know what to do. Can you come, like, you know, just do something?" And the cops basically told me that because he had only verbally threatened me and he had not physically done me any harm or tried to break in or anything like that, they couldn't do anything. They were like, "What we can do is send a squad car out there to subdue the situation. We can't do anything further than that because he has not actually done any harm to you. He's just been verbally threatening you." Which I thought was complete and total bullshit, because here was this man standing outside of my apartment saying he was going to go get his buddies and they were going to come back and fuck me up just because my blinds were open and because I had pride flags in my window. The cops came, and when he came back, they talked to him and made him turn his music off and made his friends go home. I didn't want him to know that I was filing any noise complaints or anything like that, because I was worried that if he knew that I was the one who was making those complaints, it would just escalate against me. I just really wanted to remain as anonymous as possible. I really didn't want any trouble with this guy. So yeah, the cops came, and then the next day I emailed my landlord basically detailing everything that happened. I'll put that here so you guys can pause and read if you're interested. But I basically just detailed everything that I've stated previously in this video. I did go a bit Karen mode, and I pointed out that the neighbor's behavior was against a couple codes and the lease agreement for that apartment complex. And then my landlord emailed me back basically saying like, oh my god, we're so sorry you had to go through that. We've received several noise complaints about this neighbor, and we have notified him that he has until the 30th of April to move out. They also said that they did believe that he was escalating his behavior because they were forcing him to move out, which is super fucking childish. And then finally he did end up moving out, and I got some new neighbors, and they were very quiet, very nice people. I never had any issues after that. I think that was the most outright transphobia and homophobia I'd ever experienced in my life. And I think that's the reason why I didn't really recognize it as sort of like it was kind of a hate crime. Like, he was literally harassing me and threatening me. And I don't think I really realized just how serious it was until it was over. And now, when I was going through everything and I was like, holy shit, like, he did so much fucked up stuff. Not only to me, but to my other neighbors as well. And like, we never did anything to him. He just did it unprovoked. But yeah, that's the story of my crazy homophobic, transphobic neighbor and how he threatened to beat my ass if I didn't shut my blinds. If you guys liked this video, I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming to watch it. I appreciate you hearing me out, hearing this little story time. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see y'all in the next one.